Hi, I'm Joel Worthington, President of Mr. Electric. Thanks for joining me today. Today, again, we're talking about our code of values, and the value today is we live our code of values by never saying anything about anyone that we would not say to him or her. Now, communication is very powerful if done well. If done poorly, it can bring you a lot of heartache and chaos, but done properly can bring you a lot of success. Now, there's a great example of how powerful communication can be in the Scriptures. There was a group of people building this tower, you may have heard of it, called the Tower of Babel. And the people, God said, wow, if these people can talk to each other and be united, nothing they set out to do will be impossible for them. In other words, because of good communication and unity, they would be able to do anything. And that's really how powerful communication is. If we can do it well, we can achieve great things. Now, there was a story of a couple that I heard someone tell that was being divorced, and they came to a divorce counselor, and they had been married for about 25, 30 years. And so the counselor asked to meet with each of them individually, and he asked the first one, the gentleman, he said, so tell me, if you could break this down to one thing about why you're getting divorced, what would that one thing be? And the gentleman said, well, we've been married for 30 years, and every night before we go to bed, we have toast together. And every night when we're at the beginning of the bread or the end, the hill of the bread, in peace, whatever you may call it, he said, for 30 years I've offered the best piece of bread to my wife, and she's never once said, you go ahead and take the best piece. And the counselor was like, wow, that's interesting. Getting divorced over the end piece of bread. Now imagine that. Now, so he met with the wife and he said the same thing. Break it down to one thing. And she said, you know, for 30 years we've been married and we have toast every night before bed. And for 30 years, every time we're at the end of the bread, he gives me the worst part of the loaf, and never once has he said, I'll go ahead and eat the worst part myself. Now, can you imagine that? These guys are getting divorced. Imagine the feelings of distrust and how this person is so sorry. They're not selfless, they're selfish and won't even give you the... Imagine the other problems that stem through their marriage. Why? Because they wouldn't say what they were thinking to the person they were thinking it about. They wouldn't just say, hey, I hate this piece of toast and I want the other piece, and share their thoughts and feelings to the person they should have shared them to. Imagine the life they may have had together and the heartache they would have avoided if they had just spoken face to face what they really thought. And that's what we need to do with others. Learn to say what we feel to the person that we feel it about. Now, if we're seeking advice, then great if we plan on going to talk to the person whom we're seeking advice for. Eleanor Roosevelt said this, great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, but small minds discuss people. What size mind do you have?